What's going on? This is Ryan with Automatic Comics, and up next we're going to do the second part of my top 10 surprising sales this week. These are the low sales, so these are some fun ones. Make sure you stay tuned because I've also got a giveaway I'm going to do with this video. Alright, so before we get started, please remember to hit that like button and hit the subscribe button if you'd like to see more content like this. So if you watched my other video from earlier this week, I did the top 10 surprising high sales. If you haven't seen that one, recommend going back and checking it out. It's a fun video, some cool books in there. Now, what I'm doing with this one is I'm doing the top 10 surprising low sales. So these are sales that didn't meet my expectations. If you haven't watched these videos before, what I do is I watch the weekly Heritage Comic Auction. I price generally hundreds of books per week, and then I pick out, in a typical week, 5 that surprised me on the high side and 5 on the low side. This week there were so many keys, so many big sales that I decided to do 10 on the high side and 10 on the low side and split into 2 videos. So this is the low side video. These are the books that didn't meet my expectations, either because they're on a downtrend, someone just got a great deal, whatever it might be. All right, and for the giveaway, since last month I got a lot more views on my videos, so decided I would try to give some of that back to everybody that watches the videos, and I would give away a little bit bigger book this month. And so this month the book I'm going to give away is Fantastic Four number 53, which the main thing it's known for is the second appearance of Black Panther, but it's also the first appearance of Vibranium. I think it's the first appearance of Claw, I can't remember for sure. So this is going to be the giveaway for this video that I'm doing this month. And if you want to have a chance to get this book, you've got to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment with hashtag Black Panther. Right there, and you will have a chance to get this book. Again, thanks everyone for watching all the videos last month. I really appreciate it, and good luck with getting this book. So let's get into this. Let's start with number 10. This is a big book. This is Journey into Mystery number 85 with a CGC 5.5 that sold for just $4,320. Now, personally, I think this is just a great Silver Age key. It's got a ton of first appearances. I love the multi first appearance books. This one's got the first appearance of Loki, first appearance of Heimdall, first appearance of Odin in cameo, as well as the first time you see Asgard. So it's just a big key regardless. The thing it's really known for most is definitely Loki. He's right on the cover. This is the book for Loki. Now, I've got a raw copy of this one. I mean to get it graded at some point, just haven't sent it out yet. But I think this is a book that is a great example to be watching for right now as the prices have been coming down. Because we're going to get another show with Loki. We're getting another season. It's possible they'll continue using him after that. And it's just an awesome key. I mean, when you're thinking of Thor characters, Loki has almost become more popular than Thor himself. You could even argue maybe he has. Even though Journey into Mystery 83 is the more expensive book, Loki has just become such a popular character in the mainstream. Now, I had estimated the price of this book at $5,500. This was 21% below my estimate. This book actually peaked at $8,050 in July of last year, and that was right in the middle of that Loki show. So it is down 46% from that high. Now, this is why I talk about this. This is why you do not want to buy books into the teeth of spikes going on in shows. It does not matter how big of a key that book is. That book will drop after the movie, will drop after the show, and you can get it at a better price. So just take a little patience. I know it's exciting when you have those shows coming out, but you can add them to your collection at a better price after that show, after that movie. I talked about this earlier this year too. I caught some flack for it, but this is also the case with major books like Amazing Fantasy 15. That book has been falling consistently since we had the No Way Home movie. So don't think it can't happen with even the biggest keys out there, because it can, and this is an example of that, and that's when you want to pick up those books, because historically they do trend up. Now, I've talked about some great alternatives for this book, and one of them was in my top 10 second appearances video, and that's his second appearance just 3 issues later in Journey into Mystery number 88. That same 5.5 you can get for around $800, and I honestly wouldn't be surprised if it pulls back even a little more given the recent sales of his first appearance in issue 85. All right, now number 9. This is Amazing Spider-Man number 9. This was a CGC 5.0 that sold for $1,440 and a CGC 3.5 that sold for $840. So there were 2 copies of this book that sold in this auction that had low sales. This is the first appearance of Electro. Pretty great early Amazing Spider-Man key. It's sub issue 10. I mean, it's a great cover. He's right on the cover. And it had definitely spiked leading into that No Way Home movie. And it's now pulling back. He was one of the characters in the movie. We don't really know if we're going to see him again. And now it's pulling back. Now, I had estimated the price of this book of the 5.0 at $1,850. This one was 22% below my estimate. And with the 3.5, I estimated it at $1,050, and that was 20% below my estimate. So around 20% below the estimate for both of these books. Now, the record for the 5.0 was a massive $2,790 in December of last year, right before that movie. This is a drop of 48% from that peak, and with the 3.5, it had peaked at $1,500 in November of last year. Again, right before that movie, it is down 44% from that peak. So you'll see, I will be repeating myself a lot in this video. A lot of these are books that had big peaks because of recent movies, recent shows, that kind of thing, and they're pulling back now. And so that is the time that it's a great opportunity to add those books. For example, I've been having people talk about and complain about the rising prices of comics over the last year for a long time. We're finally getting these pullbacks. This is the time to buy into them. And so don't miss out on this opportunity because, yes, generally long-term, these books do trend up. And so I believe they will eventually turn back, and then they're going to be going up again, and you'll have missed that chance to pick them up when they're down at these discounted prices. Now, this is one that I wouldn't really recommend an alternative for right now because I really do think this is the time to pick up these early Amazing Spider-Man keys that are dropping in price. His second appearance is in Daredevil number 2, but that actually is a very strong trending book. That book has been trending up, so I wouldn't really recommend going for that one. That one's near the peak of its prices, whereas Amazing Spider-Man number 9, his first appearance, that one is dropping. That's a good time to add that book if you've been meaning to. All right, now number 8, similar trend. This is Batman number 171 with a CGC 8.0 that sold for $1,860. Man, I wish I had been able to watch this auction. I couldn't watch this auction this last week, so I couldn't bid on anything, and I would have loved to have grabbed this book because this is a tough book to get in a condition like this, up in the 8s, especially this was a White Pages copy. So don't anybody tell me you can't get deals on White Pages copies, and White Pages copies always sell for more because this one was a huge steal for a White Pages copy of this book. Now, this is the first appearance of the Riddler in the Silver Age. His first Golden Age appearance is in Detective Comics 140. Super expensive book. So that's one that, this is where you've got that first Silver Age appearance, and you get a great alternative. It's an awesome cover, that cool pink cover. Now, I had estimated the price of this book at $2,500. This was 26% below that estimate, with the record being $3,295 from September of last year. Now, this is a book that has been dropping some since that movie, so that's why I estimated it at $2,500, but this is a big drop. This was 44% from that peak record price. And honestly, I just think this is a great Batman key, a great Silver Age key, and not a bad book to add, and I think whoever got this just got it for a great deal. Now, with prices of this book coming down, again, it's not a book that I'd really recommend an alternative for. You've got that post-movie lull in prices. It's just what happens. And so that's the time that it's your chance to add these books for a reasonable price. All right, now number 7. This is Iron Man number 55 with a CGC 9.6, a really high-grade copy that sold for $3,840. This is another one of those books that I just really like because it's got multiple first appearances in it. You got the first appearance of Drax, first appearance of the Blood Brothers, first appearance of Thanos, which is the big one, but the more recent thing that's really the driver on this book is the first appearance of Star Fox, who appeared in the more recent Eternals movie. Now, the Eternals wasn't received well, but Star Fox wasn't really in it. He was just at the very end in a cameo in one of those end credit scenes. And so we fully expect that we'll be seeing that character more in the MCU in the future. But this is that same trend. That book spiked into that movie again. It wasn't really because of Thanos, it was because of Star Fox being leaked that he was going to be in that movie. Now, I had estimated the price of this book at $5,500. This was 30% below my estimate. Record for this book was actually $6,100 from February of this year. And this is 37% below that record from just a few months ago. So I think this is one of those books that's just a great book to have in your collection. It's one of my favorite books. I keep upgrading it. I have a 9.2 right now. Would have been cool to add this 9.6, but still a little steep on the price. I'm not sure if I want to spend that much on this book, but I think it's definitely one of those great books to have in your collection, like Alex the Comic Hoarder has been talking about in his recent videos where he talks about those foundational books in your collection. I think this is one that when people are flipping through someone's collection, looking through a collection, they see this book, it adds a lot to that collection to see that Iron Man 55 in there and know you've got all those great first appearances in it. Now, this is one that, because you've got all those first appearances in this book, it's a little tough to go for an alternative, because it's nice to have that first appearance of Thanos if, for whatever reason, they decide to use him again. First appearance of Drax, who's in the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. First appearance of Star Fox, who's potentially got a future in the MCU. So, personally, I would just go for a lower grade copy of this book. You don't need to go out and buy a 9.6 of this book and spend thousands of dollars. Now, it is a book that has a pretty high baseline value. It's only going to get so low in price regardless of grade. But lower grade copies you can find in the $400 to $500 range. And I think that's around the lowest point you're really going to get this book in today's environment. All right, now number 6. Finally, one that doesn't really have anything to do with a recent movie or show. This was All-Star Comics number 58 with a CGC 9.6. Again, a very high-grade copy that sold for just $456. Now, this is the first appearance of Power Girl, and it's not really a book that has a lot of spec or anything behind it. I just think it's a pretty cool Bronze Age key. She's a popular character. Artists like drawing her. She's popular to have on covers for a lot of collectors, and she is a character that has been used some in the DC animated universe, but never a character that's really been used in the DC universe proper, like the big movies. But I honestly, this is another one I regret missing out on, at least bidding on this book. There's no guarantee I would have ended up with it, but somebody definitely would have paid more for it if I had been there, because I think this was just a total steal. This book has consistently been selling for $600 to $700 for years without any spec. And so I think this is just a great Bronze Age DC key, one of those rare first appearances for a popular character from DC in the Bronze Age, because so many of their characters, their first appearances are in the Golden Age, or at best in the Silver Age, and so you get a little bit later first appearance for a popular character. Now, I had estimated the price of this book at $700. This was 35% below that estimate, with the record being from the peak comic boom prices of $950 from July of 2021. This is a drop of 55% from that peak. Now, granted, I don't really think that peak price was justified. It seemed like a bit of an outlier from other prices. But still, like I said, this book consistently has been selling for $600 to $700 for years, so I think this is just a great deal that someone got. Now, another book that you don't need an alternative for, you can get a raw copy of this book easily for $100, and mid to even upper mid grades are going to go for around $150. All right, now number 5. This was X-Men number 94. There were 3 copies of this book that sold for some pretty good prices. A CGC 8.0 that sold for $1,170, a CGC 7.0 that sold for $840, and a 4.0 that sold for $432. Now, I've talked about this book recently. I think this is one of the best X-Men books to be picking up in preparation for the X-Men eventually appearing in the MCU. Now, I've said the reason I really like this book is because it's more of a generalized team book that I think will go up regardless of what version of the X-Men you end up getting in the MCU. I like those generalized keys instead of a very specific one where if that character doesn't show up, you don't really see any movement in the book. Now, this is a book that has just tanked since the comic boom. I mean, it went up a ton. One of the biggest movers up on during that time period, but it is now one of the biggest movers down. And so I'm honestly just waiting to get a chance to upgrade my copy. I have an 8.5 of this copy, and I'd like to get something in the 9s. And so I'm kind of biding my time to see when I can get one of those, since I've been seeing the prices coming down. Now, I'd estimated the price of the 8.0 at $1,800. This was 35% below that. The 7.0 I estimated at $1,000, so this was 16% below that. And the 4.0 I estimated at $570, and so at $432. Again, a great discount on that book. Now the records for these, and this is what I'm talking about, where we have just some massive declines in this book since the peaks of last year. The 8.0 peaked at $3,350. It's down 65% from there with this sale. The 7.0 peaked at $1,900, down 56% from that sale. And the 4.0 peaked at $894, down 52% from that sale. Now, do I still think that even with these prices coming down, that this is one of the best books out there to buy? Yes, that is when you want to buy these books. Now, the thing is, you can't really worry too much about making sure you get the cheapest price for that book. Only one person gets to buy the lowest price for that book. It's just deciding when you're comfortable at picking that book up. And I think it really is becoming a very good time to buy that book again. Now, this is already the alternative for Giant Size X-Men 1, so I don't think that I'm really going to recommend an alternative for this book. I mean, when you can get a 4.0, which can be a pretty decent looking copy for around $400, to me, that's a pretty low risk investment in these characters that are just really, really likely to be showing up in the MCU eventually. So that's why I think this is a great book to own, and one that I would be seriously looking at if you've been holding out and thinking about adding this book to your collection. All right, now number 4. This is Avengers number 47 with a CGC 8.0 that sold for just $336. This is the first appearance of Dane Whitman, who will eventually become the Black Knight in the MCU. He was in the Eternals movie, which does not help him because that movie was so poorly received. Now, this is not as big of a key issue as Avengers 48, where it's the first appearance of Dane Whitman as the Black Knight, but I still think it's a pretty solid book for the MCU. Avengers 48 is definitely the bigger book. That's the one that I would recommend the most, but this is a decent alternative if you want to get another Dane Whitman Black Knight type book. Now, I had estimated the value of this 8.0 at $550. With this sale, that was 39% below that estimate. Now, the record was $608 from October of last year, right around when that Eternals movie came out. And so, again, this is that what I say over and over and over again. Do not buy the book that you're looking to get into the peak of a movie or a show. I know a lot of times it seems like it's just going up and up and you're going to miss out if you don't buy it, but you won't. It will drop again after that show, after that movie, and you will have a chance to add it. Now, this is another one that you don't need an alternative for this book. If an 8.0 is going for these prices, you can get a mid-grade copy for probably around $150 to $200. But like I mentioned earlier, the book that I would really recommend is getting Avengers number 48. That was one of the biggest recommendations I made on a recent video, and I stand by that. I think long-term Avengers 48, or at least in the 5 to 10 year time frame with the MCU, I think that is an awesome book to get into. All right, now number 3. This is Daredevil, number 16, had 2 sales, a CGC 8.0 that sold for $720 and a 6.0 that sold for $300. Now, if you're not really familiar with this book, what this is this is the first time that John Romita drew Spider-Man. And so it's kind of like an artist key, but it is also the first crossover of Spider-Man into the Daredevil title. So you have a couple things going for this book, and since we had Matt Murdock appear in the recent Spider-Man movie, I think that's one of the things that was really driving this book up. You had some of that crossover with those characters in that movie universe, and so people are expecting maybe they'll see that crossover with him actually dressed up as Daredevil in that universe again, especially since there's been talk now that Daredevil is coming back to Disney Plus, so there's definitely a possibility that something like that might happen. Now, I had estimated the price of the 8.0 at $1,100. This was 35% below my estimate with the $720 sale. And the 6.0, I had estimated at $500, and with a $300 sale, that was 40% below my estimate. some big discounts on these books. Now, this book had been near its peak recently, especially with the announcement of the Daredevil coming to Disney Plus. So the peak sales of $1,199 and $550 for these books respectively are pretty similar in the downsides for these books. But with this book, I'm not really recommending picking up this book right now. I think it's a cool book. I like the fact that it's that artist key, that it's got that crossover part to it, but I think this book got a little too overheated for what it is. It's more of a minor key, and I just think it got a little too expensive. And so if you want to add this book, I would definitely watch the prices, see if they come down a little more, maybe add it for an even better price later. But we've got that news about the Daredevil show coming to Disney Plus. So when that happens, all bets are off. You could, if the show is good, you could definitely have prices in these books spike again. And so that's just something that, take your chance. If it's a book you want to add, prices are coming down, but don't necessarily wait too long because prices will likely turn up again. All right, now number 2, and this is a little more uncommon one for me to talk about. It's a much more modern book. This is Secret Invasion #1, the variant edition with a CGC 9.8 that sold for just $114. Now, there's nothing super key about this issue, but it's more just the fact that it's that issue 1 with the title that's tied to the Disney Plus show that's coming up. And so that tie to it has really been driving up the prices of this book, as well as the cover A and the other covers that are out there for this one. But we really haven't heard much about Secret Invasion for a while. We haven't gotten any teasers or anything like that. So we've been starting to see the prices on these books fall off. And these modern books, they're definitely riskier to buy. They can fluctuate a lot. They can move up a ton when a show comes out, and they can tank right after that show ends. Now, I had estimated the price of this book at $195. This was 42% below that estimate. The record from August 10th of last year was actually $361. Now, that was definitely an outsized sale. It had generally been selling for around $200 to $225 during that time frame, but still, that was a drop of 68% from that high. So just remember, always be careful when there's an announcement. Don't just rush out and buy something. That's probably what happened. I didn't go back and check if there was some announcement around August, but I'm guessing there was probably some announcement with Secret Invasion and it caused someone to just go and click that buy button. But just take your time with these books, especially with these modern ones. You have a pretty good chance to pick it up whenever you really want because there's a lot of them out there. And honestly, I'd probably go for the cover A. I actually like that cover more. It sells for a comparable price. And sometimes the cover A's actually sell for more or stronger consistently than the variants. So I just go for cover A on this one if you want to get something for that Secret Invasion show that's going to be coming out. All right, now number 1, the most surprising low sale that I saw this week. This was Aliens #1, the first print with a CGC 9.6 that sold for just $204. Now, I guarantee you, if I had been watching this auction, this book would not have sold for $204. I would have been bidding on this book because that was an absolute steal for whoever got this book. Now, these are books that have heated up ever since Disney got the rights back to Aliens and had been publishing comics for them. And I think a lot of people expect there to be more content coming out with Aliens, that kind of thing. But I really like this book. I love the cover. It reminds me of why that movie, Aliens, scared me so much when I was a kid. It's basically them coming down from the ceiling on the people, and it freaked me out when I was little. Probably would still freak me out a little bit now. But it's an all-black cover, very difficult to get in high grades. It is just especially expensive in a 9.8. 9.8 sell for over $2,000 consistently. So a 9.6 having this much of a discount, especially if somebody might get it and think like maybe they'll just take that risk, try to get that 9.8 with a resubmission, seems worth it to me. Now, I had estimated the price of this book at $490. This was 58% below that estimate. The record from 2020 was $675. This is 70% below that record. Now, this book has consistently been hovering around that $500 range, and I think it'll continue to command that value. I think this was just a one-off type sale where it was just a huge steal. So congratulations to whoever got it, because I think you got a great price on that book. Now, this is one of those that, again, I don't think you really need an alternative. There are tons of prints of this book, so if you're buying a raw copy, just make sure you're careful. You check the inside of the cover, you check the indicia, make sure you're getting that first print. But if you're buying a graded copy, you know you're getting a first print. But this is one where the 9/8, like I said, super expensive, over $2,000, but it's another good reason to just try to go a little bit lower. You get that really cool looking book. You can have it look really nice. A 9/6 for, in this case, $204. I think absolutely a steal, and again, just definitely worth a shot if you want to try to do that resub to see if you can get that jump up into the 9/8 grade. All right, so those were the top 10 surprising low sales that I saw this week. A lot of trends around movies, so that's just that theme to remember. If you're really looking to add a book to your collection, don't buy it right when a movie or a show is coming out. Just wait a few months, maybe 3 to 6 months after it comes out, and you can get a much better deal on that book. I know it's tough when you see those prices going up and you think you're not going to be able to add it, but just every time those prices drop afterwards, so I wouldn't worry too much. Now, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit that like button, hit the subscribe button if you'd like to see more content like this. I've got more videos over here if you'd like to watch some of my other videos, and the subscription button right here. If you'd like to subscribe to the channel, I'd really appreciate it, and I will see you in the next video.